Oh, hello, welcome. Uh, this is our first time doing this webinar on Microsoft Teams, so if something goes wrong, feel free to tell us in the Q&A section. But yeah, today's webinar is on the 2025.9 release webinar. We have Sean Devlin here, and myself, Glenn. We can go through a lot of subjects, but be aware that there's a Q&A section in your Teams interface, and you can post questions you want answered there, and we'll try to answer them live. But some of them, if we can't answer, we'll probably leave it to the end. Okay? Yeah. We can go ahead and start, Sean.
Yeah, we don't have any polls, just some promotional announcements at the end, and we are recording this, so we'll share the recording as well. So no need to take screenshots or anything like that. We'll share everything after it's over. Welcome everyone. We are at yet another quarterly product update. And on the agenda today, it's always a lot to try to cram into an hour, but we try to keep it going pretty quickly and focus more on doing demos. I like to do demos. We'll have an update on the last webinar. We did a lot on the form level CSS and less. There were a couple things missing, and those have been updated. So we'll just do kind of a quick refresh on that. Another nice feature about managing running queries. We'll show an experimental feature, developer time solutions. We'll go over a few other small changes in the core. We'll do the updates that there's a lot of updates to ServoyCloud. And then we'll actually talk a bit about our roadmap and give you a preview of 2025.12, which is already now being worked on. So just a real quick update on the form level CSS or form level less. In the last release, we introduced this. I really recommend you go back and watch the previous update webinar, because there I covered it pretty comprehensively, how the new feature works. This one is just an update to that, so I'll just quickly do a refresher and show you what's changed. So let me jump over to that right now. Juan, can you just confirm, can you see my running client?
Yep, I can see it.
Okay, so this is actually the same form that we showed in the previous webinar, and this is all laid out with CSS and less, that it's inheriting from, that it's defined in the form, but it inherits some things from the top level as well. We went over all of that in the last webinar. The one thing I wanted to show was just the support for less variables, and also to show a bit of a structural change that will be good to understand, especially if you have existing solutions when you upgrade them. So let's jump into ServoyDeveloper, and I'm going to go to that form. And again, this is review, but we now have this less tab on the form editor, which shows the form level less file. And this is essentially the layout, responsive layout CSS grid for that form. And the one thing that's just a bit different is that we now have support for these types of things. So on that nav bar, before, when I showed this demo, I had it hard coded like a hex code for the color. But what I really want is just inherit that from the theme, so everything looks nice and consistent. And so now I'm able to reference that property. The same is true farther down here. I made a custom border color and background color for the this gray area that sort of outlines the fields and then the border around it. Again, before those were hard coded, and I went back and I replaced those with references to, this isn't coming from the theme, this is coming from my top level less variable definitions. Just a quick note, you have to import any top level stuff that you want so that you can actually reference those variables, or else you'll get an error. And then we'll pay special attention to this one, solution properties.less. This is now like a standard file that gets generated, and I'll show where that is and what's changed. So if you look at your media directory in your solution, if you're upgrading from a previous version, there would have been a file called custom Servoy theme properties.less. That's the built-in theme roller that sort of keeps everything consistent with less variables. We've actually separated that into just the CSS definitions, and then the variables are in a separate file so that every form doesn't import the same CSS over and over, because that could get pretty bloated. So that's more for an efficiency thing. What you need to understand is that that custom Servoy theme properties.less file is kind of deprecated. It still works. You don't have to, you can leave it in, it will still work. But now just the less variables are exposed here. And of course, if you open this, you get the same editor that you would have had. So that the file name is different. And you can see I made that one change to main color. But what you need to understand is that you should import this when you reference it inside of, oops, that's the wrong one, inside of your form level CSS file or less file to get that. The other thing that will work is if you declare another, like I have the top level less file for this solution, where I'm just going to declare some other less variables. So that's where I put that BG color and that border color that I reference. So now you can do it really smart and organize things so that you don't have bloating in the form, but you also don't have bloating at the top level, and you can have everything kind of inherited and overridden nicely. The other thing that I would just point out is that in your top level scope, you also want to import both the Servoy theme. This is kind of hidden, but this is the underlying theme that ties everything together, so all your components look consistent. You want to import that, and then you want to import your solution properties. This gets generated automatically for you, these import statements, so you don't have to worry about remembering that. If you're migrating from a previous version, you kind of want to make this change yourself. You can leave it the way it is, but if you're going to use the form level less implementation, then it's best to do it this way, because then you won't have bloating in your form. So that's just more of like a best practice. So really that's kind of the update there. The one thing to understand is that you can now use these variables directly in the form and keep everything nice. So that is first demo. Any questions yet on that? Good. Then I'll move to.
Don't see any questions in there yet. Nope.
Okay. I'll move to the next. Well, this is sort of the summary. This is more for I share the slides afterwards, but everything I said is in there about what's old and what's new and what you have to do. Also, it's in the release notes. Be sure to check the release notes. The next demo is something we added, which is to manage running queries. It used to be that if you were once you send something off to the database, you kind of have no more control, and you're just waiting for it to return. And every now and then, something happens in a database where a query just never returns. Maybe some process gets shut down, something on the back end. The Servoy application server doesn't really know that. It's just waiting. And there's nothing we can really do to see inside the database. But what you can do is cancel a running query. So I'll show kind of how to do that. I'm going to switch back here and go to my running queries example. This is just an example of a long running query. And I'll show you in the developer before I click it, this one. So I have this method when I click that button called long query. I'm just using a built-in Postgres function called BG sleep. I'm going to sleep it for 10 seconds. So this query does nothing, but it doesn't come back for 10 seconds. It sleeps in the database. Well, I'll show you the feature. So what I'm going to do is run the query. I'm going to switch over to the Servoy admin page, and I'm going to show you this running database queries. Basically, I'm just going to refresh this, and you'll see the query show up, and I'll be able to cancel it. So here we go. So the query's running. I reload this. There it is. And I say I'm going to cancel this. Okay. And when I come back, this is the client is no longer hung. What used to happen is that the query would just keep running, your client would be hung, and you really have no way to deal with it other than going inside the database and seeing what's going on there. So this is a much nicer way to manage it. So this is on your admin page. It's a new page called Running Database Queries, and that's where you can see and manage all of those queries that are running. It's a little bit different than the database performance, which also shows running queries, but in a different way. This allows you to manage them. So that's a quick mini demo. The next thing I'm going to show is we had our all-company hackathon. We do this every year where we get together with everyone and we work on different projects and teams. And usually some stuff comes out of this related to the product. There was one experimental project to allow essentially to run the ng client inside of developer as a developer time solution to actually use a Servoy client to operate on the developer environment, so not as part of the runtime solution. So this is an experimental feature that we put in the code base, and we're going to release it kind of as experimental. And I'll show it to you, and you can see if it's something worth using. It's kind of an advanced feature, and I'll try to explain different kinds of use cases. So let me, oh, there's the error from when I canceled the query. So let me go over here and first just show you, I'll show you first how to, or what it does, and then I'll show you how it works. So let me close these out. So what I'm going to do is first I'm going to open up a form called test form. This form has a single button on it, and it says nudge me. I'm going to right click that, and I have these commands here that wouldn't normally appear there. These aren't built-in Servoy functions. These are exposed by my developer time solution. I'm just going to do something silly, and I nudge it left, nudge it down, nudge it right. Essentially what I'm doing is I'm programmatically operating on my solution from code that I've written in Servoy. So this is the compiler, Servoy, and Servoy example. Another maybe more interesting use case would be suppose that I have, and this is kind of why people were asking for this, I have a kind of a pretty complex framework, and I have a grid form, like a base grid form, and I have some design time properties that I want to configure my framework, and I inherit this all over my solution, and I want sort of a nice configurator inside of developer to, so maybe a junior developer can operate on metadata on the framework, but not have to get into the code so much. So I have this design time property called search providers. In the base form, it's blank, but when I click in my search box, it's going to use the configured search providers to run the search on the implementation forms. So if I look at my customers grid, I might want to modify that, but I don't want them to do it through, suppose it was some complex JSON structure and not just a couple strings. I don't want them to do it in the properties. I want to have a nice configurator. So now I have this custom config menu here. And when I click it, it's actually going to open a form. Now I made my form kind of pretty plain, and you're actually limited to what you can do here. And here are the search providers for customers grid. And so it's searchable by company name, city, and country. If I were to look at that in here right now, if I do by country and I do, say, France, you can see I get a result. But suppose I want to remove that from my metadata, and I come back here, I remove country from the list, and it actually modifies the form. And now you can see when it broadcasts into the running solution, and I try to run the same query, well, it hit on company name, but not on country. So that's working. I'll show maybe a nicer example on products here. I want to be able to search on the supplier name. Oh, I changed this. I was practicing it and I added the supplier, but I'll show you the same thing. If I were to come to products now and configure it, it's loading the design time properties. And there I had added this so that it would work. So let's take a look at how this works under the hood, because there's a few things going on. For one, we've introduced a new solution type called a developer module. And you know what, maybe when I updated, this was now hidden. I have because we were going to hide this and I did an update this morning. So now I don't see it. That's interesting.
Johan says, go to the preferences.
Preferences, yeah. We were talking about that we should hide this behind a preference because it's kind of annoying if you don't use it. Yeah. And then it's probably in here somewhere. Johan, if you could chat in where the preference was.
Under the Solution Explorer. So the third item from the bottom.
Yeah, okay. And then show developer solution node, experimental. There we go. Okay, so yeah, we hid this behind a property. Yeah, maybe we should show it if you have one already included. So hopefully it shows up now. There it is, developer solutions. So, well, that's good learning. So here I already created a developer module. And the way this works is that for starters, you have an on-open handler. So just like a regular on-solution open. And in that is where you register a menu item. And you can register menu items on the solution level, on the form level, and then on the component level. So you can see that the way this works is you just give it the name, and then you say the location, and there's constants for this. And I used form for my custom config. And then you register the callback, this is a function farther below. And I did the same thing for the components, and I have a function for each one of those. So if we look at this custom config down here, all I do is I call my custom configurator form method configure. If I jump into that, what I do is I set what I should say is if I go back, what's passed in is an array of selected forms or selected components, because you could do this you could shift click and select multiple things. But I'm just interested in the first one just for the demo. So the JS form instance, so the solution model blueprint of that form gets passed in. And then what I do is I call developer bridge.show form that shows this form in that dialog that you saw. And then I set it to kind of a form variable, and then I get the design time properties and I just load them in this thing called search providers and rendered it. So just a simple example here. So I'm actually reading in the blueprint of that form, the design time properties, so that I could render them and then edit them. So I kind of just made another design time properties editor, which is a silly thing to do because you could do it right in the form editor. But you could imagine that if you have a sort of a complex framework with a lot of configurations, you might want to have a nice, really nice configuration screen to be able to do that. Or if you have a custom component that you're building and you want your developers to be able to easy configure that, that's a way to do it. If we look at the other example where I was nudging the component around, again, I don't know why you would want to build this, but it just shows that you could do things to a component. The callback for those, you can see it gets again the selected components, and all I did is I read the CSS position left part in, and I subtract 10 and I reassign it, and that instantly affects the solution model so that when you save it, it's broadcast into the running client, or it's updated on the form editor. so you can see it. So I know there's a lot going on here. The gist of it is that you can just programmatically interact with your runtime solution. You just need to create, well, I didn't put in the slide here about the preference. You want to unhide the preference, add a developer module, and then register your menus at the different levels that you want, solution, form, and component. And then you can do two things. You could just run business logic, or you could even show a configurator form to operate on the object that was clicked. So again, this is experimental. We'll just sort of keep it hidden behind a property because it's kind of a advanced thing. But if you have these kind of structures in your application, many of you do, I know, go ahead and try it out and give us some feedback. The developer type solution is very limited. It doesn't have access to a lot of things. So depending on if people are using this, we'll expand the access of it so that you can do more things to it. For example, I wanted to do a value list, and you can't make a value list in it, but maybe we could allow you to make custom value lists or something like that. There's some other small updates. They're not really like full demos, but I'll go through a few things. On the ECMA, we're always adding more support to modernize the JavaScript engine and the parser. So now we support map and set. I can just kind of quickly take you through some code and show you what that looks like. There's a nice command called convert component, which actually was a candidate for the developer time solution, but then we just put it into the core because it makes sense. Then the query builders are now strongly typed for the data type. I'll show you what that looks like, and we can suppress audit log. Well, I'll just take you through these one at a time here. So map and set. I mean, if I could just get a blank. I don't really have any code here. I just open it in the script editor and show you. So these are objects that are available in JavaScript. I have a background in Java, so they have like hash tables and hash maps and sets and things in that as well. But now you can essentially say, new map. And you can see that you can do key value pairs on that. So you can do set keys, get based on a key. What's interesting is that it's different than like an associative array where it's always like a string that you key into something. You can actually use a complex object as a key, and the same for a set. So, and a set is really it's simpler than a map. It's just kind of a list, an unordered list of items. So you can add things to a set. And again, these can be complex values, but they have nice things like if it has something. So you could have a complex object in a set and you want to see if the set has it. You don't have to write the code that loops over it and checks for like a value. So if you're doing stuff like that, I strongly recommend these patterns. I don't really have code examples because this is plain JavaScript. You can go on the internet and find a gazillion nice examples of how to use map and set. I think there's also, you could put like a type tag on these. And I think in the next version, if I'm not mistaken, so if you had like a type tag and you wanted to do map, you can strongly type it and do like, well, it's a string key and an object that looks like this, right? So you can, and then we can even perhaps generate code complete on that. So you can really get like strong typing on these types of objects. So that would be an enhancement for the future there. So that's map and set. Convert component, I used this a bunch just setting up these demos. So I was amazed at how useful this is. All you got to do is right click on a component, go to, there's not one for that. I don't know why. Is it because it's on a base form, I think? Yeah, I think it's because it's on a base form. If I go to let me go to that stupid test form that I had with one button on it. Suppose you get a text box. I do this all the time. You drag it on there, you bind it to something, I don't have it bound to anything. And then you realize, oh wait, I meant to have a text area, or you do a combo box and you meant it to be a value list. Now you can just right click and say, I'm going to convert it. And then you select which one you want from any of the available components. And then there's even some property mapping that you can get into there. So very quickly, you can just kind of switch. I used that like 10 times just setting up this example. So that's already very useful. Little thing, but it's nice. Query builder columns are now data typed. So you'll see this in the database manager. Oops, wrong one, Sean. Here. If you get into what used to just be the QB columns, and now you'll see like QB integer column, right? And the methods that are available on those are really limited to that data type. Like it wouldn't make sense for you to do a trim on a text column or a a round on a text, or sorry, a trim on a number column or a round on a text column. So but you'll see that if you do if I just bring up one of the tables here, let's do something that has like order details. I think has a mix of different types. And then if you do q.columns now and you ask for one of the columns, you can see there's a number column, an integer column. These are all numbers and integers. You get text column. So if I do the number column, it's not going to show me trim, for example, right? But it would if it was a text column. So this is nice just for, it doesn't really change anything in runtime, but just developer makes it easy to stay organized on Query Builder. How are we doing on time? Halfway. Audit log suppress data. This is a nice one if you are using the audit log feature. You know that it stores the old value and the new value when you change something, which is really nice for tracking things. But maybe if you change sensitive data, you don't want that written to another table, right? So you want to keep that out. All you have to do, if I come in here and I don't just open up customers, and you click a column, you can now say no data log. And what that means is that it will still audit the change to the column. So if I change the customer's phone number for, let's pretend phone number is sensitive. If I change that, it will still log that I changed it at this time, but the old value, new value will be blank. So it won't submit the data for that. So that's kind of nice for handling sensitive data. I'm sure that was made off of a specific feature request. Finally, the JSON file structure has changed for all the objects. So it's now like really strict proper JSON with quotes and the leading curly braces and all that. And this has really no effect for you. Just that every time you touch, when you're upgrading from another version and you go in and you operate on a form or a relation and you save it, it will rewrite the JSON structure to be proper. This is nice because I will show in one of the previews from the next version, as we get into using some AI tools in development, the fact that these files are well-formed JSON files will make a big difference for how those tools can handle them. You can also do, I think there's a upgrade solution files to new JSON format. There's a menu item on the root solution node. So if you just want to get this out of the way, not have like these file changes over and over, upgrade, right-click that, it'll update all those files. So when you commit to your repository, you'll have a bunch of updates, but do it one time and commit it in one commit, and then that's probably the nice way to do that, so that it's not like trickling in and some are and some aren't. So I recommend you just run that command right when you update and get it over with. Okay.
Sean, do we have time
yeah.
for a few questions?
Yeah, we stop now because I'm about to switch over to ServoyCloud and then on to the what's coming in the next release. So that's a good place to stop.
Okay. Robert asked, can that convert component function be used on older Servoy elements to move them to the new Bootstrap components?
I don't see why not. I think that might be the use case. I'll have to double check,
Mm-hmm.
Robert. I think that was the main use case. Just that you have to then, map the properties because not all properties map. If you're talking about like the legacy components and they have like BG color, right? There's no BG color in a Bootstrap component, so you just ignore it. There may be nicer automated ways to do that for like a group of components, but this is like one by one. If you just look at it, it's not right. You right click it and do the mapping. You can do it quickly that way, so you don't have to delete it and re-add it and then potentially mess up some other bindings, right? Like on action handler or something like that, or UUID, right? If the UUID somewhere or the name. So I think that was the main use case, Robert. But I'll double check that with our team, and when I post the stuff on the forum, I'll make a correction if that's wrong. So.
Another question from Paul. For the JSON file structure, I'm assuming he's meaning that one. Does this apply to all the actual form definitions or just components? I'm guessing it's all things, right? All things
all
like
the
JSON.
all the files in your workspace are mostly JSON, like relation files, valueless files, FRM files. They all are kind of pseudo JSON in the way they have been in the workspace over the years, but now we've moved it to a proper JSON file structure. So yeah, it applies to everything. Everything that is like it doesn't apply to a properties file. Well, that's not in your workspace. That's in your root directory, but you get what I mean.
This is an older question, but this is relating to canceling running queries. I guess this is more of a ServoyCloud question, but if you have multiple servers, are you still able to cancel long-running queries in that scenario? That's a good question.
I think it's a great question. Someone caught that. I think I put it in the slide that on the feature roadmap is to add it to Servoy Cloud Control Center, because for those of you that don't quite get the question, you can run multiple nodes and connect them with a broadcaster. And that's what we do in Servoy Cloud for production hosting, high availability hosting. And then you don't really go to the admin page. We have a bunch of tools layered on top of that that can talk directly to those servers and enhance the capabilities. But if you're running your own cluster, you don't really have access to that. So you got to do it from an API level. But Servoy Cloud will add support for this for sure. It's on the roadmap. Yeah.
Nice. Okay.
Good question.
Very good.
These guys are paying attention.
Yep.
Okay.
I think that's good. I think Johan answered the last one. Give the chat.
Okay.
So you're good to go.
Yeah. If we miss anything, we'll get them offline as well. I'll try to get them when we post to the forum. I'm going to quickly go through some of the Servoy Cloud updates, and then I think we'll still have time to show you some cool things, some cool demos, experimental demos for what's coming up, because this release is kind of, I think, a bridge for some other interesting things that we've been working on now for a while. So I just have some animated GIFs here from Servoy Cloud. We did add support for epics. So if you do like Agile Scrum, you have user stories and they have epics. So you can create an epic. And then you can see here the description of the epic. And then when you, after you save that epic, you can go into your actual tickets and you can map them to an epic, or link epic it is. And then that way, when you look at your dashboards, you can see like, progress by epic. You can see your tickets searched by epic, etc., or filtered by epic. So that's nice for those of you who do the project management. By the way, you don't have to host in Servoy Cloud to use the project management. It's there for you, and you don't have to host. You can even have it linked to a repository. You could, and get the commit linking as well. Sometimes people often think that it's only linked to hosting. We offer now ticket linking too. So if you come from Jira, you're probably familiar with that. And this is just where like you have one ticket that maybe someone submitted another ticket and it's a duplicate, or one is blocking the other one. You can't work on ticket A until you fix ticket B. So now you can see the action type there, blocks, right? So you can link tickets. So for better project management, to understand what tickets are related to what, and there's a new tab there called Connected Work. and that's where you can, excuse me, manage that. Well, just because we can, right? Everything's easier. AI spell check, so there's a little button there where you can just kind of click it. It will ask you to accept if for the first time, because it could be sending that to a language model that it's connected to. So you can run that, and then it'll auto fix it for you. I know this is running in a loop. You don't have to accept it every time. It's like a one-time thing. This one is cool. And for databases that are, this is for hosting customers, databases that are hosted in ServoyCloud. We might be able to add this to remote environments for the satellites, where if you don't host with us, you still get it. But for now, this is on production hosting. And you just want to see into the database structure. People have been asking for this for years. To some sort of things. You don't have to go to a database admin tool. You don't have to be a DBA and have special access. You can see the structure. You can see the row counts. A lot of times people just want to know the row counts. And it's just a nice way to add some richness to the experience, where you can browse your databases and see inside them. Again, that's for production hosting now, but we could potentially add that to those of you using satellites, which is where you can run your Docker image in your own data center or on premise and still get the same insight and monitoring that you get in ServoyCloud. This is also a neat one. You can create tickets in the project management system from like a log file error, so that this happens a lot. People see an error in their log, and we have this, we have all the logging in ServoyCloud. You can just click the create ticket, and it will sort of link it to the log entry, and then you can just put it in your backlog for like a developer to look into. So nice feature there. I'll pause real quick. Any questions on the ServoyCloud update? There's one that I missed. I should say there's a nice dashboard. I just didn't have a screenshot of it. But if you are using the Agile project management, there's also like a nice dashboard that now includes the Epic part as well. So you can take advantage of that. Any questions?
Sean,
Yeah.
No question, but a comment. Tim Bill just asked, please add support for SQL Server for this database view.
Yeah. Thanks, Tim. Yeah. We always do everything Postgres first, because Postgres is more standard, and we have more customers that run Postgres. We support, just to clarify for everyone, we support SQL Server in production hosting. Of course, in Servoy connects to any database, but in our production hosting, we do support SQL Server and the MySQL flavors. But some of the database-specific features we first add for Postgres, and then we can expand it to the other databases after we get that implemented. But duly noted, Tim. Okay, good that we have a little bit of time left, because I have some neat demos to show and just talk a bit about what's on our roadmap. So on the AI front, we've been busy, we've been paying attention, and we've been doing experiments and talking to customers, and we have developed a kind of strategy, I think, for the next few quarters for how we see ourselves. And there's kind of two avenues. One is using AI as a developer on your Servoy applications, and the other one is putting AI capabilities into your own application. And so we're pursuing in parallel both of those, and we're doing different things. One is that the Copilot plugin for Eclipse, which we demoed in the past, is getting better and better. As are some of the other development tools, not just GitHub Copilot, and they are now able to use things like MCP, Model Context Protocol, to find out more information or to even call tools. And we're taking advantage of that, and we're exposing a Servoy MCP server in the local host, like inside developer, so that Copilot can understand more about your solution or about the Servoy APIs, but also even call things in directly into developer, like creating objects or doing things that normally are done programmatically. So we're going to expand the capabilities that we expose. Also, recently, Gitbook also, which is the hosting site for the Servoy documentation, now can also expose endpoints for your documentation as MCP. So Copilot can see that as well. So these tools will get better and better, and I can do a small demo of that. So I'll jump into that. For this, I'm switching over to Servoy 2025.12, which is available. It's in the nightly build, not ready for prime time yet. But the example that I'm going to use is I just start a solution. The first thing I want to do is just create the relations for all my regular database tables, like customers to orders, products to orders, orders to order details. And every time I make a sample solution, I got to go in and I make those. And gosh, wouldn't it be nice if the AI could do some simple stuff like that? So opening up my Copilot agent, I can type in something, and I have something here ready to go. So I'm going to paste in my prompt. Have a look at the database named example data. Can you generate all the relations? I left one in there so it could look at it because it's actually not using the Servoy endpoints at this point. Is actually just understanding the file. And I'm going to go ahead and run that. And you never know with AI, you might get two results differently. But when I ran it this morning, it did a nice job. So it's going to look at the database structure. So it already understands a bit about Servoy without being told very much. It read my orders to customers relation file. It made some assumptions about some of the constants in there. It messed up the UUID. Before it didn't do this. Well, maybe, well, yeah. They seem to show up in developer, so we'll take a look at it. It may also just be part of the build that I'm using, but let's open one of these.
Experimental stuff. Cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if that's like a real error or not. The relations themselves, I think they look okay. It's just kind of was opening the editor as it did it. If I say keep these, and now that it's kind of done, you can see that it did make the relations. So if I look at like products to order details, it should go product ID to product ID and and all of that. But kind of like a preview of my goal here wasn't to show some amazing thing, but just like the easy stuff should get really easy, I think. Like making value lists and relations, and we've done lots of experiments with CSS, like CSS grid layouts for building responsive forms. For me anyway, I'm not very good at that stuff at all. Just is way easier with large language models help in general, and baking that into the developer environment should just get easier and easier. If you look at the Copilot configuration under preferences, there's a couple things that you can do. One is custom instructions. So I think we'll be looking at these. Just get kind of like the system prompt level for Copilot. We'll probably be looking into adding some default Servoy instructions. Although you kind of have to set these yourselves, but we can probably publish some things that work well. And then you can add MCP endpoints. So I added the local Servoy MCP endpoint, and you can see that there's a get forms and a create value list, right? So both how to get information about your solution and then how to operate on something on your solution. So potentially we could open up a lot of tools to Copilot to say, I want to make an object, or I want to, one of these commands like, convert the JSON file structure or something, right? Anything that's a command it could run in theory, and then fetching resources like understanding documentation. So it can go out and find these things as it needs to. So that's something you can play with already, but we'll be doing lots of experiments on that front, and I think that there's good potential there to really improve the developer experience and make the easy stuff go really fast. The other topic, actually putting AI capabilities into your application, which I think is really exciting. We decided after working with a number of customers that we would sort of go the route of providing a facilitator because the use cases are so variable, and everyone's understanding of these technologies is at different levels, and maybe some have already picked favorites and others are just exploring. So we decided to do like a LangChain implementation in Servoy. We're going to build on that. So we'll be releasing a plugin to do AI related stuff inside of Servoy, and I think that's nice because it's just a standard plugin. It's free, open source, all that, and it allows you to just connect these technologies together, because at the end of the day, Servoy is a development platform, and you guys know best what you want to do. But I love to do risky demos just before a webinar, so I made one, of course. So, well, before I show you the developer, let me go to show it running. So, talking to some customers about their use cases and beginning to dive into some projects, one common pattern that we see a lot that's somewhat of a low-hanging fruit is document understanding, where you have some workflow, maybe inside your application or just in a company, where users are reading documents, pulling out relevant information, and then submitting it somewhere else, right? Maybe literally opening a document, reading it, and entering stuff into fields. This happens all the time, and AI makes that kind of like a waste of time for a person to do it. So what I thought is I went out on the internet and got some U.S. Vehicle registration. They're different in every state. And I thought, well, what if I could say I want structured output for unstructured input, basically. So I'm going to take a New York sample vehicle registration in an image. I don't know if I'm waiting for it or something didn't work. Let me relaunch the client, because I had that sort of sitting open. Maybe I did something to break it with all of my Copilot stuff. Let's try this again. All right, New York registration, upload. There we go. Analyzing it. So there, it returned. It filled out the fields here, and I asked it for a confidence score as well, because ideally the way these things work is you have a human in the loop workflow where you want to know where because these things make mistakes, and if it gets confused by something, you want to know that it's confused, and have it tell you that, yeah, maybe I couldn't figure out this field, or just overall this is a lower score, so you need to review this, right? So that's one document. You can see I didn't really make it look nice, but I'll do one more. If you actually give it PDFs, it does really well, but images is a bit harder. But so we do Wisconsin. And so it comes back with the plate number, when it issues, when it's expired, the drivers that are listed, the make and model, that sort of thing. So on a typical vehicle registration, so you can imagine that if you don't have to do this through a user interface either. This could be, you have a database of documents or an S3 bucket of documents, and you want to have some automated process going over them and digitizing them. Essentially, you could do that, right? So because we're just giving programmatic access. So let's take a look at 2025.12 again and look at this code. So I have this form example document understanding that you just saw, and I have parse document. And you can see that after I show the block UI thing, I'm using the plugin here, basically these 4 lines of code. I give it the model name. Again, we're not choosing the model. You could have a private model, an on-premise model. It's plug and play. It's based on the LangChain architecture. And then I create, in this case, I'm using the OpenAI, right, GPT. So I create an OpenAI client. I add my document. I add my system prompt, which I had to, tweak to get right, and have it give me back the structured response. And then I get back the response, and then I parse the JSON payload into those fields, and I show them on screen. But again, low-level access. It's plugins .ai. And you can see that right now, just a few methods, but there's a lot in that architecture. So RAG, tooling, being able to give it resources to go out and find things, give it tools that are callable, so you could expose different functions in your own applications, and that sort of thing you could build. It doesn't have to be chat interfaces, right? The one I just gave you was not a chat interface, but you could build chat bots. There's the streaming version of this too. You get back a streaming response. So pretty easy to take all the use cases on with this kind of approach. So that's the LangChain plugin. That's what we're looking at for 2025.12. I would say that on that note, we are working with customers already on their AI projects, because we really want to validate the use cases and make sure we find things that add value. So we are calling for your AI projects, and so you can just reach out to us if you want to work together. By doing this, you get early access to the plugin. The plugins, we're only building the things that we need to satisfy the use cases. So if you have a use case, you could then potentially influence the roadmap. Our experts are getting better and better at these technologies as well. So you get access to expert services to help you flesh out your project, build a POC or an MVP. Yeah, we're already starting this with a number of customers. So if you'd like to get involved, I recommend you do it now while we still have capacity. The other announcements that we'd like to make, we're offering a promotions for ServoyCloud. There are 2 different flavors of ServoyCloud. There's the pipeline for just building and testing. So if you're interested, let us know. You get 8 hours of onboarding and configuration. We can do a free consultation. There's no risk. Just reach out to us. If you're not already building, if you're interested in running on-premise with the Docker images and getting some of that nice monitoring features that we've shown in past webinars, we can take you through that and help you figure it out. If you are interested in production hosting, we're offering 1 week of 1 full week of free onboarding and configuration, in addition to a free consultation. So if you're getting tired of managing proxy servers and clusters and things like that, let us know, and we'd be happy to take you through it. And of course, I have to say this every webinar since 2024. LTS was built. Smart Client, Web Client, and NG1 are only supported in the LTS builds. They're not in the new builds. So that means sometime in 2026, those will not be supported at all. So get in line for a free application scan and consultation to have your application updated. We've been developing some scanning tools that are getting better and better at sort of really finding all of the things that you would need to address, and kind of creating a project plan out of that. So if you're interested in running a scan on your code and getting a consultation from one of our experts that they've been spending a lot of time on this, just reach out and we'd be happy to schedule that. Okay, We are 4 minutes remaining for questions and feedback.
Hey, yeah, you finished early this time. The
Thank goodness.
the last question was by Robert, but I think Johan just answered it, so
Okay.
I
Thank
don't
goodness for
see
Johan.
any. Yeah, he's lurking around there. I don't see any other questions at the moment, but let me give people some time, I guess. A little
Okay.
bit.
Then we will post the recording, the slides, and the 2025-09 sample solution that I showed on the forum, and we'll follow up there with any questions that weren't answered or we weren't sure of, or if there's any corrections.
Okay, absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you all for joining, and we'll see you at the next product update. Bye for now.